Right now, there are 48% of Americans who describe themselves as people pleasers. That's nearly half the population saying yes when they want to scream no. And here's the insane part. 39% of them say it's made their lives harder. If that's you, this video is about to change everything. Before we go any further, let me show you something. According to a massive YouGov study of thousands of Americans, 70% of women and 63% of men go to extreme lengths to avoid conflict. Think about that. 7 out of 10 women would rather exhaust themselves than say one simple word: no. And get this, 52% of people feel like they can't say no when someone asks for something. Not won't. Can't. Like it's physically impossible. But here's where it gets wild. Research from Princeton University discovered that guilt literally weighs you down. Not metaphorically, literally. When people recalled unethical memories in their study, they perceived physical tasks as requiring more effort. Your guilt is making everything harder. So, why do we do this? Why do we keep saying yes until we collapse? The answer is buried in your childhood, and it's not your fault. Here's something that blew my mind when I researched this. According to attachment theory, developed by psychologist John Bowlby and expanded by Mary Ainsworth, the way your parents responded to you as a baby literally programmed how you handle boundaries today. Listen to this. If you had caregivers who were inconsistent, emotionally unavailable, or unpredictable, your brain learned something critical. My safety depends on pleasing others. It wasn't a conscious choice. Your nervous system literally adapted for survival. Research published in multiple developmental psychology journals shows that insecure attachment in childhood correlates with difficulty establishing boundaries in adulthood. Your brain created what's called an internal working model, basically a blueprint that says, if I say no, I'll be abandoned. If I disappoint people, I'm unlovable. And here's the kicker. According to YouGov, 32% of self-identified people pleasers believe they were socialized to be this way. For women specifically, that number jumps to 38%. You were trained to ignore your needs. But here's what nobody tells you. The same research from attachment studies shows this pattern continues across generations unless you actively break it. Your people-pleasing isn't a personality flaw, it's a trauma response, and trauma responses can be rewired. Okay. So here's where everything you think you know about boundaries gets flipped upside down. Dr. Brene Brown, one of the world's leading researchers on shame, vulnerability, and connection, spent 13 years interviewing thousands of people about compassion, and when she analyzed all the data, she found something she called the most shocking finding of her entire career. The most compassionate people she interviewed, they also had the most boundaries. Not some boundaries, the most. She literally said they had boundaries of steel. This completely contradicts what we've been taught. We think, if I'm compassionate, I have to say yes. If I set boundaries, I'm selfish. But Brown's research proves the opposite is true. Wamatro. Here's her exact finding. Compassionate people set clear boundaries because boundaries keep them out of resentment. When you don't have boundaries, you end up exhausted, bitter, and angry. And you can't be genuinely compassionate from that place. So setting boundaries isn't anti-compassion, it's the foundation of compassion. Without boundaries, you're just a doormat with good intentions. Alright, here's where we get practical. I'm about to give you word-for-word scripts that protect your energy without destroying relationships. These come from clinical psychologists, boundary experts, and thousands of real-world tests. Instead of no, say, I'm at capacity through specific date. Which project should I deprioritize? This is genius because it acknowledges the request, shows you want to help, but puts the decision back on them. You're not the bad guy, you're being transparent about reality. Let me check my calendar and get back to you. This is my favorite because you don't even use the word no. Research shows our impulse is to say yes immediately to avoid guilt, but giving yourself 24 hours to think prevents emotional decisions. Your nervous system gets to regulate before you respond. I can't take the lead on this, but I could help with specific smaller tasks. Can't organize the entire school fundraiser? Offer to bring supplies. Can't work late all week? Offer one specific evening. This keeps you connected without sacrificing yourself. That doesn't align with my priorities right now, but thank you for thinking of me. This is powerful because it's honest without over-explaining. You're not lying, not making excuses, just stating a fact. I'm not the best person for this, but have you tried alternative solution? You're still being helpful, just not at your own expense. Studies show people respect this more than fake enthusiasm. When someone pushes back, and they will, you don't argue, you don't justify, you just say, I've already given you my answer. Then you stop talking. Research on negotiation shows whoever speaks first loses. Let the silence do the work. And here's the most important script of all. What you say to yourself. Someone's emotional reaction to my boundary is about them, not me. Because here's the truth. According to relationship psychology research, healthy people respect boundaries. Anyone who gets angry at your boundaries is revealing they benefited from you not having any. Now let me explain why these scripts work, because understanding the psychology makes you bulletproof. June Tangney from George Mason University has been researching guilt for decades, and here's what she found. There's a massive difference between guilt and shame. Guilt says, I did something bad. Shame says, I am bad. When you feel guilty for setting a boundary, that's your brain confusing guilt with shame. You're not doing anything wrong by having limits, but your internal working model from childhood is triggering a shame response. Tangney's research with over 500 incarcerated offenders found something fascinating. Guilt is protective. People who felt appropriate guilt took responsibility and showed less aggression. But shame made everything worse. So when you set a boundary and feel guilty, you're actually experiencing healthy guilt being hijacked by toxic shame. The solution? Reframe it. Your new internal dialogue. Setting this boundary is taking care of myself so I can show up better for the people I love. Because here's what research on burnout shows. People who set boundaries have better relationships, not worse ones. A study in the Journal of Psychology found that chronic people-pleasers experience higher rates of anxiety, depression, and relationship dissatisfaction. And get this, 43% of women struggle to establish boundaries with others compared to 32% of men. This isn't random. This is societal conditioning we need to actively unlearn. Okay, so knowing this stuff intellectually is one thing. Actually doing it when your boss emails at 9 p.m. or your mom guilt trips you, that's different. Here's your step-by-step practice plan backed by behavioral psychology. Start with situations that don't matter. Say no to the store clerk offering a rewards card. Decline a group text dinner invite you don't want. Research on habit formation shows you need low-risk practice first. Actually say these scripts out loud when you're alone. Why? Your brain needs to hear your own voice saying these words. It creates neural pathways. This is backed by studies on motor learning and speech preparation. Now use one script in a real situation. Just one. Maybe it's telling a friend you can't help them move this weekend. Notice the feeling before, during, and after. Clinical psychologists say most people report the anxiety they felt beforehand was 10x worse than the actual conversation. Your brain is catastrophizing. Tell someone you trust about your boundary practice. Research on accountability shows you're 65% more likely to succeed when you have support. Have them check in with you. And here's the critical part. Celebrate every boundary you set, even small ones. Your brain learns through positive reinforcement. Each successful boundary creates momentum for the next one. Now, let's talk about what happens when someone doesn't like your boundary, because they won't always be happy about it. According to relationship research, there are 3 types of boundary pushback. They say things like, I guess I'll just do it myself, or, you never help anymore. This is manipulation, plain and simple. Your response. I understand you're disappointed, and my answer remains the same. Then, stop talking. They demand explanations. Why can't you do this? What's more important? You don't owe anyone a detailed justification. You can say, I have other commitments. Full stop. Remember, boundaries are respect, not negotiation. But everything will fall apart. This is so important. Here's your response. I understand this feels urgent to you. I'm not available, but I can. Alternative solution. Research on emotional manipulation shows that people who respect you will accept your first no. Anyone requiring multiple explanations is trying to wear you down. And here's what you need to remember. According to Brene Brown's research, when you assume people are doing the best they can and hold boundaries, you stay in integrity. You can be both compassionate and boundaried. These aren't opposites, they're partners. So what does life actually look like when you master guilt-free boundaries? And here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop trying to please everyone, you become more valuable to the people who actually matter. Remember, 47% of people think others see them as people pleasers, but when you set boundaries, you show up as someone who knows their worth. That's attractive. That's leadership. That's integrity. Brene Brown's big framework sums it up. What boundaries need to be in place so that I can be in my integrity and be generous toward you. That's the goal. Not cruelty. Not walls. Integrity. Here's your challenge. In the next 24 hours, use one script from this video. Just one. Reply to this comment telling me which one you chose and what happened. And remember, 48% of Americans are people pleasers. You are not alone. But the 52% who aren't, they figured out what you're about to learn. Boundaries aren't selfish. They're survival. Your guilt has been lying to you. It's time to say no without apologizing for taking up space. See you in the next video, where we're going to break down exactly how to handle the guilt that comes after you set a boundary. Because setting it is only half the battle.